So welcome everyone. Today I just have a really special opportunity to interview Ashton Pickle. And he is a former student of mine at Point Loma Nazarene University where I teach. My name is James Wicks and I'm a professor there, and I'm teaching a surf film class this semester with Dr. Ben Cater. And I just wanted to reach out to Ashton. As a Point Loma graduate, I think you have so much to speak into the lives of students that are in the class. But then just more generally, Ashton, your life here now is a surfboard shaper. I consider you a filmmaker, following you on Instagram and seeing all of your projects. So I just wanted to jump in, just as friends here to have a chance to chat, but also just looking forward to how you'll speak into the lives of the students taking this surf class. So I just wanted to start off, Ashton, by asking you about surfing. I remember one of the first times that you and I talked, you were taking one of my classes a number of years ago, and I said, you look like a surfer. May I ask, how often do you go surfing? And I remember, Ashton, you answered, about twice a day. and I just thought, okay, I had probably only gotten out twice that week. So I was like, I want to follow this student, see what he's up to. So yeah, first question here, just how did you get into surfing, and how did you fit surfing into your life as a college student when you were at Point Loma?
So I first got into surfing. So I was born in Florida, moved here when I was 6, and so I lived here for 5 years when I was younger. And just my neighbor across the street, he was willing one day to just take me out. And so I rode a couple waves on my longboard. Honestly, at the time, I really didn't even think too much of it. And I didn't really even like surfing that much at the time, where then I just wanted to skate and just skate with my friends. And so I really didn't even surf after that. And then I moved back to Florida when I was 12. And then I got into surfing when I was about 15, 16. And at that time, we actually lived about an hour and a half from the closest coastline. And so, and we lived on a lake. So I would surf a ton behind the boat, but I only really surfed. I still surf though about 3 times a week, because I just want to drive out there literally every day, because it's interesting. It became just this obsession. But it happened when I moved away from the ocean. And then so then it was kind of cool, because then when I was about 18, then moved back to San Clemente, and then was able to kind of pick that up again. But just at Point Loma, that was actually the main reason why I picked that school too, just because of its proximity to just the surf. And always kind of at that time too, 16, 17, 18, I kind of really wasn't even in the know in surf culture. What was considered cool, or what I thought was cool, wasn't really considered the norm, because I was just kind of this inland Floridian kid. And so it was kind of cool to kind of come over to California, and everybody kind of heralds that when you're in Florida, of oh, California, surf capital of just the United States. But so it was cool to come over and kind of experience that. And just through going to college, it made me a way better surfer. And then I was able to experience kind of what surfing actually was. And so then I stuck with it. I would still surf twice a day. I didn't have any kids back then, and so I was in the water every day. I mean, even now though, I do surf once a day. So I guess I surf 50% as much, but it's still a lot.
Yeah, it is for sure. And I thought that was really interesting. I didn't realize that at one point you lived so far away from the ocean. For a while I was surfing while living in Portland, Oregon, when I was doing graduate work. And it was exactly what you described. I wanted to surf so bad all the time, and I would wake up super early and just get in some days before work. And it's just interesting how it can drive that passion, being a little bit separate from it. What did you do after graduation, and how did that trajectory take you into your life now as a surfboard shaper and starting your own surf company?
Perfect. Here, I'll just answer in just a second. I'm so sorry, my phone's about to die.
You're good.
All right. So how did surfboard shaping kind of come into play?
Yeah, exactly. What did you do after graduation? I know some students, they'll be interested in learning about what you did as a student and keeping surfing as part of your life. But how did you keep surfing as part of your life after graduation as well? And how did this surf company that you started come about?
So I always had such a fascination with just how surfboards were made. So even in high school, I really wanted to make a surfboard. I even bought a blank, like got like all the resin and like fiberglass cloth that you would ever need to build one. My youth pastor at the time, he built some boards. And so it was something that I actually never even got around to. So I even bought all the materials and then never got around to doing it. And I was like 17. But I always had this fascination with being able to build something that you're able to ride on the water. Because I loved like even just doing like little woodworking projects growing up. Just anything to do with my hands, whether it was like toiling in the yard or doing like hard labor. So it seemed cool that like your hard labor could turn into something that you're able to ride. And so that kind of like stuck with me. And then when I was 21, I finally made my first board. And after I made that, it was just so cool that, and also at the time, so when I was 21, I was like, oh man, surfboards are so expensive. And at the time I was just kind of getting boards just through my buddy for a little cheaper, and that kind of like fell away. And so when that happened, I was like, oh, I do not want to pay like $700 for a surfboard. So it was kind of out of that as well. Of that, I almost a pride thing. I was like, I'm not going to spend that much for a surfboard that like I don't even know who that person is. And so by then making my own surfboard, I was able to make something that was truly like what I actually wanted to ride versus like just looking somewhere on the rack and then like picking something up. And so my surfing got so much better because then I was able to shape something for how I surf. And I never really talked to shapers like growing up and getting my board shaped that way, which also would have helped me a ton. And so that was kind of something that I kind of learned along the way. And so it was nice to kind of figure that out and then be able to actually just ride boards that you kind of had in your mind that you wanted to surf. And so it kind of just developed as something that was super fun at first.
And your surf company is called Vessels,
Yeah.
and we'll make sure that we can do some promo as part of this video as well and get the word out. And I definitely, want to talk to you about the filmmaking that you do as part of that. But a question that comes to mind, and I'm looking behind me at some of the books that I know you studied as one of my students taking literature and film classes at Point Loma. You know that the politics always overlaps with whatever activity we're doing, and that's certainly part of surfing as well. So it's a bit of a pivot here to this question, but you and I both know that surfing, as much as we love it and love board design, it can be a really exclusive activity. I remember so many times, like in my late teens, reading surf magazines, and there'd be a feature of some lawyer or doctor, and just being honest, almost inevitably Caucasian, white, and it would talk about how they surf in Indo on their breaks, or they go to the Maldives or whatever. And I'm just wondering, how can, what have you been doing, do you think, Ashton, to, maybe even making cheaper boards? I'm not sure. How can surfing become less of an exclusive activity? And just how does your role in the surf culture right now overlap? And what are your thoughts about that?
It's super interesting that you're asking me that, because so that's one of like my true passions is like I hate exclusivity. And I always want to strive so that you can like there's so much division like these days, across like cultures, like race, and surfing is one of those where, especially in San Clemente and Orange County, like the majority, like everybody you see that's surfing is pretty much white, and like very like wealthy, and so that's what I've actually been thinking a lot about, like how can I do more in order to not, I guess, keep this pattern going. So it's something I'm still like thinking on. I have like a couple ideas, but right now, like what I kind of do is that if I come across like a kid or something that I know doesn't have as much money, or I'll like give him a discount, or like give him the board for cheaper, or figure out some way so that he's able to still surf. And I don't charge like exorbitant like prices for my surfboards. That's one thing. I never really wanted to like charge like $1,000 or like $800 or like $700 for like a clear, like something with, and so that's kind of one way that I've tried to do it as well. But I know there's like something more that I can be doing. And that's something that I'm kind of trying to figure out how to do that within like my own community to like just stop that like perpetual just habit kind of going on.
Yeah, thanks for just being so honest and transparent about something that you're right in the middle of right now. But I know that you've also, done some really interesting work overseas, building a skate park, doing some mission work. Does part of your passion, is that part of that communicated through those global outreach? I was just wondering if you could share about the skate park that you've been a part of overseas.
Yeah, definitely. So I found that skateboarding has always been a much more inclusive sport than surfing.
Interesting.
And so that's why for that project, so like with skateboarding, you can go to the skate park and skateboard's a lot cheaper. You can get a used skateboard and you can just roll around. You don't have to have this like $600. And the margins on surfboards anyways are super thin. So even if you wanted to make your own surfboard, it's still pretty expensive. It's going to cost you like hundreds of dollars. And so when you go to the skate park, it doesn't matter like what age you are, what race you are, it doesn't matter like where you live. Even if you guys don't even speak the same language, you can find this commonality and like everybody's on the same playing field, and you might play skate with that person, or you guys are just trying like a trick on like the same ledge, or just trying a slash in the deep end. Or it doesn't matter. Where surfing, it's kind of, and it also doesn't matter your skill level too, which that's a huge part, where you come across a lot of skate parks, or even just, it doesn't matter if you're just skating like a curb somewhere. People don't care as much how good you are. It matters like how you're pushing your own ability. And so that's something that's really in a stark contrast to surfing, where in surfing, there's kind of this view, like, and people like will do this. If you're not as good of a surfer and you show up to like lowers or something, people are going to be mad at you and they're going to want you to leave, which I don't really understand. But it's just where it's like there's all these rules and boundaries, and like you're not supposed to do this or this, and there's no like support. Whether surfing, it's very selfish, and skating is more thinking about everybody else. And so that's something that, and that's not to say that's for like all surfers or all surfing communities. And there's still a lot of like family and brotherhood in just like surfing culture. But it's definitely like in that water where like that wave is only going to be there for a certain time. So like you want that resource so bad that it's so limited. Where skating, it's like we have an exponential more amount of resources. So you don't have that, I guess, limited supply. And so because of that, I wanted to use skateboarding to bring together like different groups of people. So my parents have a nonprofit called Small Steps for Compassion. And so they've had it for about 8 years. And so in this village in Tanzania, we have like a school over there that has 350 kids that we've started. There's a girls' home that has 28 girls. We have like a fish farm, bakery, and it's all self-sustainable. And so what I wanted to do was, so we do a couple community outreaches, but so like 6 years ago, like when I first like went there, I was like, oh, I really want to build a skate park here. And so that was a dream I always had. And so I wanted to be able to do that, so that there's so many, it doesn't matter if you're like poor or rich, it's just a way to bring the community together. And so by building that park, I first, honestly, it just happened I didn't even have any contacts. I literally started reaching out to people over Instagram, and it just kind of all came together over like the course of like 6 months. And then we had a huge crew, like we're going to build it. Like we knew where, we got all the park designs, and we collaborated with a couple different nonprofits. And so that now we have that project that's up and running, and the kids are skating every day. They're getting super good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then at the school, where like some kids, they're so poor that they can't even afford to go to the school, or their parents won't let them. But the skate park is for everyone. So it's right at the school. So it caters to like the community and the students. So it's like it's a level playing field, where then everybody can just skate together. And especially even like some of the like the girls, obviously there's a girls' home, and like so there's 28 orphans, and a lot of people don't really have a good home life. And so you can go there and kind of not really have to think about all that. But that's one of my very big passions. And so I'm always trying to think of like different ways. And so now we're going to go over there like twice a year, just keep continually grow the skate community over there. And so I'm kind of trying to think of how now I can incorporate that into surfing or what I do. And so I'm kind of still trying to figure that out. I have a couple ideas, but just trying to, yeah, it's one of the things that's like what I'm most passionate about. Like if there's anything I'm more passionate about than like surfboards or like shaping or skating, like it's to just be able to make like a place that just includes all different like races, cultures. So yeah, very important.
Yeah, and yeah, it's cool that that you have that skate park going there, and yeah, it's I've seen the pictures of it, and it's super inspiring,
Yeah, you gotta
and it's
come.
just yeah, I got it. I do. As you know, my son almost went on one of the trips with
Yes,
you, and of course with COVID shutting things down right
I
now.
know.
But just the pictures I've seen and the energy that it brings is super positive. And yeah, so yeah, this conversation's going all over the place here, but yeah, I just wanted to pivot back to to some filmmaking.
Yes.
You know, one of the fun things about your company, and I know from talking to you that you've gotten a lot of compliments on the videos that you post for Vessels on Instagram, and how you edit maybe not the best, highest quality surfing, but images of surfers having fun. There can be some comedy, there can be some skits, kind of like the Taylor Steele old, this like the old skits from the old surf documentaries. And just wondering, how does filmmaking play a role in your just in your creative expression in general, but just how it affects your surf business as well?
Yeah. So surfing is just super fun. Like there's no denying that. And so if I were to ever stop having fun surfing, there's not really any point to keep on shaping. And so videos kind of and filmmaking is one of those things that like brings me joy or makes it fun to just kind of collaborate with other people and just make funny little short edits or just use like kind of like off the beaten path like songs or something that just isn't really the norm. And so it's become like a really fun thing to kind of just do with the brand. And I do have a couple friends who are really good videographers, really good filmers, filmmakers too, that they've like made like a couple edits for me. And so I also love editing videos because I've kind of always done that just growing up. And so it's just been something that has stuck with me like since 6 years old. And so there's just no reason I wouldn't continue to just use that just throughout my life in kind of any way that I can. But yeah, I think if you're just showing that you're having fun, people are going to realize that and really be able to like hold on to that, relate to that, rather than just showing some like run of the mill like photos or just using like the same song everybody's heard before or riding like just and also riding like different types of equipment. And kind of that's what I'm all about, is just making people be able to see surfing in a different way than they normally would have, just from like the boards that I build. And so that's kind of just what I try to portray a little bit in the videos.
Well, that leads me to a quick shaping question, because you're trying all kinds of asymmetrical designs in addition to a lot of more standard shapes like the fishes that you have. Yeah, just want to talk for a little bit about your board design, what inspires you there, and what keeps you going with different creative shapes?
Yeah. So I was first introduced to asymmetrical surfboards by Donald Brink. He's a really good shaper here. He's from South Africa, but he's from here. And he shapes full time, and he's just I personally, and he only hand shapes too. So I think he's definitely one of the best shapers in the world in my eyes. And so kind of from being introduced to that, first time I got a board from him, it was like 3 years ago, I think.
Okay.
And that was the first asymmetrical board I had shaped for me. And it was a little on the smaller side, like 5'7", but I wanted a board that was going to be smaller, but be able to take to Hawaii for like when it's like 10, 12 foot and be able to ride a smaller board in a big wave. And so that was the first time that I realized how well asymmetrical surf design like really works. Right. And you can, because of the way you can change like the rocker, rail line, wide points, concave, you're able to do things to a surfboard because you have twice the amount of variabilities, where if you're using a symmetrical surfboard, you have to do the same thing on each side.
Sure.
But now you're able to change what you do on like your heels versus your toes because of like your body mechanics, like where your like ankle joint is in relation to your body. You don't have as much leverage on your heel as you do over your toes. So you're able to change certain characteristics so that you're able to just surf better. And you can ride then like a shorter board in a bigger wave, or be able to generate more speed or turn a little easier on your backhand, especially with twin fins. That was one of the issues that I always had, was they were hard to surf on your backhand. And so then by making them asymmetrical, everything you're doing on the heels makes it so that it's more forgiving. So then you don't have that like sliding out, or then it surfs like a thruster and has all the like reliability of a thruster, but then you have the speed of a twin fin. Because personally, I just like going as fast as possible. And because if you have all the speed in the world, then you can go anywhere on the wave you want, because you can always burn off speed. If you've gained as much speed as you can, then you just can't go any faster, but you can always slow down. So that's why I like just making boards that you can just go as fast as possible while your surfing isn't hindered.
Yeah, I still haven't surfed in an asymmetrical shape. I've definitely slid out on a twin fin before. And I think the one thing that might surprise most of us who haven't ridden one yet is that you ride the same board going frontside or backside. And I think that, before seeing that and seeing that on your videos, I always thought if you got an asymmetrical shape, they'd be meant to go one direction, but it's not true. And really liked the way you described the way that works, just in terms of the dynamics of the board. So yeah, I guess as we wrap this up, you strike me, and I'm sure you'll strike others as well, Ashton, as someone that you're inspired, whether it's through breaking down barriers, skateboarding, making surf films, exploring surf design. What would you say to folks to, just to keep them inspired? What keeps you going? And what would you say to other people, whether they're part of this class as surfers, or part of this class because they just want to express themselves in any way? What keeps you motivated, and what would you say to inspire others?
Yeah. So it's interesting because lately I have just been kind of finding a new inspiration, where before I was getting burnt out a little bit, because honestly, like making surfboards, you're not going to be the richest person in the world. It might be frustrating at times.
And you said you're shaping like 40 hours a week these days. So
yeah.
So you're right in the middle of it.
Exactly. And so it's a lot. And so you have to, and then I still have to like here or there, like find other ways to make money sometimes if you have a slow week, or and so I was always kind of thinking of the business in like terms of like, okay, money, like how can I make more? What can I do here? But then I kind of started to realize that really wasn't the best way to look at it. And it doesn't make sense to that you wouldn't think of a business as like purely as how can you make more money, because it does make sense of like you want to make more money. I have 2 kids. I have a wife. Like you have to make money to live, but
and you're a business major from Point Loma too.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
I mean, it all connects.
Yeah. Exactly. And so then I started to think about it as in, what if I use this company to then just use it to impact people just in a positive way, so that I look at it and how many lives that I'm able to impact, and able to maybe like brighten somebody's day, even just the way that you deal with somebody on a day-to-day basis, whether they're ordering a board and they don't really know what they're talking about, like taking the time with them, not being rude in the water, and really just trying to just be more loving towards people. And so when you look at your business as how can I grow this in a way that is going to make a better impact on the world, as like how much love and joy that I can spread, then like that's going to be successful. So if you do what you're passionate about, rather than just thinking about like, okay, what can I do to make myself more money? Like that's going to all fall into place. And if you're doing what you're passionate about and what you love, and if your heart's in the right place, then your business is going to grow. So I think that's kind of the main thing that keeps me inspired, is that don't think about the money necessarily as much, and it might not last forever, but I'm going to have a really fun time doing it, and I love what I'm doing. So that's kind of what I do.
Great. That's wise words for both students and graduates alike, Ashton. So fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's just an excuse for me to connect with you again, and just love having you as a student and also seeing where all this is going, and just appreciate as always how much I have a chance to learn from you. And I hope others can advantage from that via this method as well. So, all right. Thanks so much, Ashton.
Thanks so much. I want to come down and get lunch soon, actually.
Okay, let's do it. And, you know, I might even be in San Clemente this weekend, so we'll figure it out soon.
Yeah, let me know.
We'll figure it out.
Thanks
Ashton.
so much, man. Honored. Thank you.
For sure.